In a remarkable display of dominance, Max Verstappen secured his 5th consecutive victory in 2023. Despite the anticipation of tire degradation making the Austrian race more thrilling, Verstappen's 24-second lead over Leclerc in the final laps gave him the freedom to showcase his skills. Astonishingly, he opted for an unnecessary and daring pit stop solely to gain an extra point. So, let's talk about the burning question in everyone's mind. Can anyone challenge their reign? Buckle up, because this is the F1 update you don't want to miss. But before we do that, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button down below if you like all things F1. Alright, now let's get back to the video. Verstappen, having successfully led his home race, outpaced Leclerc and his teammate Sergio Perez, who managed to surpass Sainz in the final stages. Verstappen expressed his satisfaction with the outcome. "I think the most important thing for me was lap 1, to stay in front. After that, we could do our own race," said Verstappen. Regardless of personal opinions about Red Bull, it is evident that they currently hold a dominant position in the sport. With victories in every race of 2023 thus far, it raises the question, was Russell correct all along? Can we expect to hear the Dutch, Mexican, and Austrian anthems throughout the entire year? The 2022 regulations were introduced with the aim of bringing more excitement to F1 racing. Changes such as increased car weights and narrowed chassis and shells were expected to enhance competition. However, it appeared that Red Bull discovered a way to exploit the rules more effectively than any other team, which some might describe as a literal cheat code. While we won't delve into that topic, what we should discuss is the concerning possibility of entering another era dominated by a single team. This is something we had hoped to move away from after the period of Mercedes turbo hybrid dominance from 2014 to 2020. The Austrian GP proved to be a challenging race for Red Bull last year, contrasting their overall strong performance. It was during this race that Ferrari secured a victory, marking 1 year since Leclerc's previous win. This outcome, while it may be seen as humiliating, highlights the relative struggles of the other competitors compared to Red Bull. Max Verstappen's impressive 24-second lead over Leclerc and his strategic decision to pit for fresh soft tires in the final laps to secure the fastest lap and extra points added a notable highlight to his dominant season. However, it raises the question of whether such tactics are beneficial for the sport as a whole. While no one is claiming that watching Verstappen win is dull, it's undeniable that Red Bull has done an exceptional job adapting to the new regulations. Some may argue that circumventing the budget cap could bring more advantages than drawbacks. Nevertheless, we must consider that success in Formula 1 is not solely determined by the car. Perez's struggles in finding the right setup for the RB19 exemplify this. Although his remarkable recovery drive from P15 to P3 is commendable, it does not match the consistency demonstrated by Verstappen. Instead of dwelling on the perceived boredom of this season, let's shift our focus to a contributing factor: the inconsistency of other teams compared to Red Bull's remarkable performance. While it's true that Red Bull's car is operating within an optimal range, it's worth noting the absence of mistakes in their pit stops or strategic calls made by Hannah Schmitz, the brilliant mind behind Red Bull strategies. Their pit stops appear effortless, to the point that even Mercedes' attempts to gain a few tenths of a second in 2021 by raising concerns about the wheel gun sensor with the FIA have fallen short. Red Bull truly stands out in a league of their own. Verstappen's trust in his team led him to make the crucial decision to enter the pit stop despite holding only a slight advantage over Leclerc. Had he delayed by just a few seconds, the outcome could have been significantly different. On the other hand, we witnessed in Austria that Ferrari had a genuine opportunity to close the gap to Red Bull, especially with Sainz's strong pace. However, when Sainz requested clean air ahead of him to improve his performance as Leclerc was impending him, the expected support from the strategy team was lacking. The double-stack pit stop was also mishandled, resulting in Sainz having to navigate past Norris and Hamilton while waiting for Leclerc's tire change to be completed. Although expectations for Ferrari's overall performance this season may have been modest, there was hope for some excitement in Austria. The narrow margin of 0.048 seconds in the qualifying session demonstrated this possibility. It was the closest gap seen in 2023 so far. However, even with this small margin, Leclerc was unable to pose a significant challenge to Verstappen, raising questions about his ability to fully extract the SF23's potential. Interestingly, Leclerc seemed to face more competition from drivers like Sainz or Perez, who started from a much lower position at P15. Furthermore, had Mercedes not encountered a sudden drop in performance in Austria, Leclerc would have likely found himself well below second place. Indeed, the inconsistencies between Mercedes and Aston Martin are worth discussing. These two teams were expected to provide a thrilling and competitive season, as indicated by their own statements. Toto Wolff, the team principal of Mercedes, expressed hope for Austria, and Silverstone was a race he had marked as a potential victory for the team. However, the results of P7 and P8 were certainly not what we anticipated from the Silver Arrows over the weekend. Aston Martin, with their plans to challenge Red Bull and introduce upgrades to bolster their performance, also faced disappointing outcomes. Perez managed to widen the gap against Alonso, and Stroll's performance once again raised concerns about his future in Aston Martin, prompting the need for serious discussions with his father. The dominance of Red Bull does raise questions about the competitiveness of the sport. However, it's important to recognize that other teams have the opportunity to learn from Red Bull's success and improve their own cars. While factors like the narrow chassis and unique characteristics of Red Bull's car may present challenges, motivation can be found in various forms. For example, Mercedes is introducing a new floor upgrade in Silverstone, aiming to enhance their performance. This upcoming race offers hope for increased competitiveness compared to what we witnessed in Austria. Nevertheless, it is clear that achieving a more balanced and competitive landscape in the modern F1 era remains a distant goal based on what we have observed thus far in 2023. Russell, on the other hand, is expecting Red Bull to drop the ball soon. He was asked as to whether or not Red Bull is still way ahead of Mercedes, an answer to which he replied, "I mean, it feels to a degree they're coming a little bit closer to us. I think when you look at the average compared to the whole field for whatever reason, it seems like Red Bull may have taken a small step back. But you know, when they're 3 steps ahead, they're now 2 steps ahead. So they've still got a lot of margin. I was told recently about half an hour ago that they've won the last 17 out of 18 races. So they're cruising at the moment. They're doing a really good job. But hopefully it's not too long until we can turn the tide." The performance of Lewis Hamilton during the race was indeed subpar, as evidenced by his multiple off-track incidents resulting in a 5-second penalty. When Hamilton's racing engineer Bono asked him to keep the car within the white lines for a strong run ahead of Norris's McLaren, Hamilton expressed that the car was difficult to drive and he couldn't comply with the request. Toto Wolff, the team principal of Mercedes, even went on the radio to apologize to Hamilton for the poor performance of the car he had to drive during the weekend. These circumstances evoke memories of last year's Imola race when Wolff found himself in a similar situation. In 2023, we can hope for more notable improvements and advancements from teams like McLaren. The upgrades introduced to Norris's car have demonstrated that significant enhancements can be achieved with the right approach. Norris showcased impressive speed, outperforming Hamilton and being in contention for P4 against Sainz until a certain point in the race. This scenario would have been unimaginable for Norris just a few weeks ago. Moreover, there is further optimism as McLaren has planned 2 more sets of upgrades for the MCL60 in the upcoming races, increasing the prospects of consistently strong finishes for the team. It is evident that the recent upgrades for Mercedes and Aston Martin did not live up to the expectations. There is still room for improvement from these two teams, and we have yet to witness their full potential. On the other hand, Ferrari showed an improved pace compared to previous races, achieving a commendable result with a P2 and P4 finish. However, the fluctuations in performance seen within Ferrari, Aston Martin, and Mercedes are in stark contrast to the consistent dominance displayed by Red Bull. Based on the current situation, it seems highly unlikely that Red Bull will face significant challenges from their competitors until the start of the year, or potentially even until 2026. It is undeniable that Max Verstappen is an exceptional talent, and his skills, combined with the performance of the RB19, make for a formidable combination. However, we can also observe the challenges that Perez faces in the same car, similar to the situation between Bottas and Hamilton from 2017 to 2020. The RB19, in capable hands, feels incredibly fast and dominant. Therefore, it is clear that we are currently in a Red Bull-dominated era. To address this dominance, some may argue for tweaking the regulations. While public denials have been made by Stefano Domenicali, the CEO of Formula 1, the sport has shown in the past that it can introduce changes to enhance the entertainment value for fans. With the increased interest in Formula 1, there is a desire to avoid repetitive outcomes such as hearing the same two anthems on the podium repeatedly and determining the championship winner with several races still remaining in the season. These factors contribute to the argument for potential adjustments in regulations to level the playing field and create a more exciting and unpredictable competition. How can other teams rise to the challenge and close the gap on Red Bull's dominance? What changes would you like to see in Formula 1 to make the sport even more thrilling and unpredictable? Let us know in the comments below. And as always, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.